My child, stop scrolling. Do not skip this. I have interrupted your day for a very specific reason. I brought you here right now because I heard the heavy sigh escaping your lips, because I saw the invisible weight you are carrying on your shoulders. You are holding on to a heavy burden of a mistake you think has ruined everything, a mistake you believe has disqualified you from my love. You think this chapter is the absolute end of your story. You think the blueprint of your life is torn forever. But I am asking you to stay with me. Give me just a few moments of your time today. I see you rushing through your daily tasks, trying desperately to distract yourself from the noise in your head. But the noise always comes rushing back, the loud voice of guilt that tells you it is simply too late, the voice that says you completely messed up the plan I had for you. I am here today to silence that voice. I am here to tell you a truth you desperately need to hear. Do not turn away from this screen. This is a divine appointment scheduled from eternity past. Set aside your worldly distractions for just a minute. Breathe in my holy presence. I have been waiting patiently for you to pause. I have been waiting for you to finally look up from your despair, because I am about to show you a profound mystery. I am about to show you why the chapter you thought was the bitter end is actually the prologue of your greatest restoration. Listen closely to my voice. Feel the stillness entering your room right in this moment. You thought you stumbled into this message by sheer accident. But there are no accidents in my sovereign kingdom. I guided your weary hand to stop right here. I orchestrated this very moment just for you, because your soul is crying out in the wilderness for an answer, because you are desperately searching for a way to fix what is terribly broken. You're trying to rewind the clock of time. You are trying to undo the decision you made in the past, and it is exhausting every fiber of your being. It is draining every single ounce of hope you have left inside. I am stepping into your situation today, because I love you far too much to let you drown in your own regret. Listen to my words and let them be a healing balm. Let them wash over your anxious and racing mind. I see you in those quiet and lonely hours of the night, when the rest of the world is fast asleep and the silence is deafening. I see you staring blankly at the ceiling above you, replaying that one specific moment in your mind over and over again. The moment you took the wrong turn on your path. The moment you made the choice that changed your trajectory entirely. I watch as your mind spirals downward into the dark abyss of regret. I hear your silent and desperate cries. If only I knew what I know now. If only I had not done that one foolish thing. If only I had listened to the gentle warning in my spirit. If only I had walked away when I had the chance. You replay the memory like a broken and scratched record, hoping that somehow the ending will miraculously change. But the harsh reality remains standing before you, and the toxic guilt consumes you like a raging fire. You think about the investment that vanished into thin air. You think about the golden opportunity you carelessly threw away. You think about the precious trust you fractured and shattered. You think about the sacred vow that was compromised and broken. I see the exact moment your heart sank into your stomach, when you realized the full magnitude of the severe consequence, when the comforting illusion shattered and the cold, hard truth set in. Since that terrible day, you have been carrying a heavy ghost, the haunting ghost of what could have beautifully been, the ghost of the grand destiny you think you permanently destroyed. You wake up every single morning feeling already defeated by life. You put on a thick mask of normalcy for the outside world. You force a bright smile for your friends and your family members. You pretend that you are holding everything perfectly together. You speak words of faith while your heart is bleeding out. But underneath that heavy armor of emotional numbness, your soul is incredibly and deeply tired. You are suffering from a profound spiritual fatigue, an exhaustion that physical sleep simply cannot cure, because your mind is constantly on a harsh trial, and you are the merciless judge, the jury, and the executioner. You condemn your own self every single waking hour. You punish yourself relentlessly for not being wiser back then, for not being stronger when the temptation or confusion came, for not seeing the hidden trap before you walked blindly into it. You tell yourself that you deserve every ounce of this excruciating pain. You tell yourself that you have irreparably ruined the sacred plan I laid out for you. You look into the mirror and you see nothing but a colossal failure. You see someone who let their creator down. You see someone who let their own potential down. I know you feel this toxic guilt running through your very veins. It whispers maliciously that you are a total disappointment. It tells you that your future is permanently stained and ruined. You even avoid praying to me sometimes, because you feel far too ashamed to face my holy presence. You think I am looking down at you from heaven with a scowl of anger. You think I am shaking my head in deep regret for ever choosing you. You think I have crossed your name off the master list of the blessed, but you are measuring my infinite grace with a flawed human ruler. You are projecting human anger onto a divine and loving heart. I see every single tear you shed in the shower, so no one else in the house can hear you weep in sorrow. I see how your chest tightens with severe anxiety when you think about tomorrow. I see how you mentally calculate the massive losses over and over again, trying desperately to find a mathematical way out of a deep spiritual crisis. You are trapped in a cold, dark prison of your own making, and you have willingly thrown away the only key. You have locked yourself inside a solitary cell of regret, and you absolutely refuse to let yourself step out into freedom. You believe you must pay a lifelong and heavy penalty. You believe your destiny has been permanently downgraded to second best, that you will only ever have the leftovers of my blessings from now on, because you broke the original beautiful masterpiece. My beloved and precious child, I know exactly where the wound hurts the most. I know the exact jagged shape of your unique brokenness. I know the heavy shame that makes you want to hide entirely in the shadows. I know the paralyzing fear that whispers you are entirely alone in this massive mess. I was right there when the tragic mistake happened. I did not turn my face away from you in disgust. I did not abandon you when you took the very wrong step in the dark. I saw the deep confusion swirling in your anxious heart. I saw the intense desperation that led you blindly to that moment. I saw the fragile human frailty that caused you to stumble and fall. I am not a distant and uncaring observer of your personal tragedy. I am intimately and deeply acquainted with all your complex ways. I feel the heavy stone sitting at the very bottom of your stomach. That constant and suffocating dread that absolutely refuses to leave you alone. That terrifying feeling of being stuck in a dark, dead-end alleyway, with absolutely no way to turn the heavy vehicle around. You are mourning the beautiful life you thought you were going to effortlessly have. You are grieving the perfect version of yourself you thought you would always be. I am here today to tell you something very important for your survival. Cry if you must. Let the bitter tears fall freely and without restraint right now. I am not rushing your necessary process of grief. I am not asking you to swallow your profound sadness and pretend. I am not here to tell you to just be positive and smile. I am not going to offer you an empty and meaningless religious cliché. The sharp sting of this consequence is profoundly and entirely real. The heavy loss you are experiencing right now is completely valid. It is okay to feel the crushing and overwhelming weight of it all. It is okay to admit that you are completely and utterly broken today. Your honest tears do not offend my holy nature. Your intense anger at yourself does not push my love away. Your deep doubts and your racing fears do not diminish my affection for you. I do not judge you for feeling paralyzed by your current circumstances. I do not condemn you for being so tired of constantly being strong. You have been fighting a massive invisible war inside your mind for so long, and it is completely and perfectly understandable that you are utterly exhausted. Do not ever apologize to me for your actively bleeding wounds. Do not attempt to hide your raw and messy emotions from my sight. I am the ultimate safe place for your absolute worst and darkest moments. I am the calm harbor for your violently shattered ship. Many people in this world might tell you to just get over it already. They might casually tell you that time heals all things eventually. They might unfairly expect you to bounce back instantly like nothing happened. But I am your creator, and I know the actual depth of the deep cut. I know how much physical and mental effort it takes just to get out of bed some days. I know that true spiritual healing cannot be rushed by a fast-ticking clock. I validate your immense pain here today. I validate the heavy sorrow that has made a permanent home in your chest. You are not weak for hurting so deeply. You are merely a human being living in a fallen world. And I personally designed you with the immense capacity to feel deeply, to love deeply, and to grieve deeply when things fall apart. The tragic mistake you made caused a very real fracture in your daily reality. And ignoring the throbbing pain will not magically make the fracture disappear. So sit here with me in the dusty ruins for a quiet moment. I am sitting right beside you in the messy dirt and the gray ashes. I am not standing on a high pedestal pointing a judgmental finger at your mess. I am down here in the muddy trenches with you. I am gently holding your hand while your body trembles with fear. I am wrapping my warm presence around your violently shivering soul. Breathe out the heavy and exhausted sigh one more time for me. Let the beautiful reality of my unconditional and perfect acceptance wash over you. You do not have to perform a routine for me. You do not have to pretend you have learned your painful lesson perfectly yet. You just have to be exactly here with me in this exact moment. Just exactly as you are right now. Broken and bruised and full of tremendous regret. I accept every single fragmented piece of your shattered heart, but I want you to do one crucial thing for me before we move forward. I want you to take a slow and deep breath and dry your swollen eyes just enough to see clearly through the haze of your tears, because I need you to carefully look at what I am holding. I need you to see exactly what I have in my hands right now. Look at what I am holding in my hands right now. It is the blueprint of your entire life. You look at this magnificent design and you see it crumpled and violently torn. You see the dark and ugly stains of your recent failure all over it. You see the jagged and sharp edges where your mistakes ripped it completely apart. You are deeply convinced that this sacred document is completely and utterly ruined. You believe that there is absolutely nothing good that can come from this massive mess. But I need you to understand exactly who you are speaking to right now. I am the master architect of the entire boundless universe. I formed the majestic towering mountains, and I charted the course of the deep roaring rivers. I placed the burning bright stars in the vast and endless galaxy with incredible precision. I know exactly how to build, and I know exactly how to restore. Do you really believe that my divine and sovereign plan for you is that fragile? Do you actually think that your human error has more power than my infinite grace? Do you think that one wrong turn can permanently derail the creator of all eternity? You have placed far too much faith in your own human ability to fail. And you have placed far too little faith in my divine and absolute ability to restore. You think your terrible mistake is the grand finale of your beautiful story. But to me, it is simply the raw material for your beautiful new beginning. I do not throw away torn and damaged blueprints. I do not abandon construction sites just because the earthly foundation cracked. I am the God who steps directly into the messy and dusty rubble of your life. I am the God who looks at the chaotic and broken pieces scattered on the floor. And I see a glorious and breathtaking masterpiece waiting patiently to be born. You are grieving the painful loss of the original plan you desperately wanted. You are crying bitterly over the path you thought you were supposed to perfectly walk. You thought your specific plan was the only way to achieve true happiness and peace. But I want to reveal a profound and incredibly liberating truth to your heavy heart. My divine grace is entirely capable of rewriting your grand and sacred destiny. I am redrawing the lines of your life right in this very moment. I am taking the exact mistake that brought you down to your weak and trembling knees, and I am weaving it into a brand new and significantly stronger foundation. You thought you completely ruined the beautiful plan I had carefully designed, but my relentless grace is actively overwriting your tragic and painful mistakes. What you boldly and loudly call a devastating failure, I call a necessary redirection. What you look at as a permanent and shameful rejection from the world was actually my unseen hand of divine and absolute protection over your fragile life. You did not see the hidden dangers on that path you desperately and stubbornly wanted. You did not see the subtle and deadly traps waiting patiently to ensnare your soul. So I allowed the uncomfortable and deeply painful collapse to fully happen, because I would much rather see you safely broken and weeping in my loving arms than happily lost in a dangerous illusion that would eventually and utterly destroy you. Your frustrating delay is not a permanent and final denial of my goodness. Your painful setback is the very setup for my greatest and most miraculous comeback in your life. The broken pieces you hold in your trembling hands are not worthless trash. They are the holy and precious building blocks of your upcoming spiritual upgrade. I am taking your severe humiliation and turning it into a deep and beautiful humility. I am taking your deep regret and transforming it into profound and priceless wisdom. The version of you that emerges from these dark ashes will be entirely and completely different. You will possess a quiet and unshakable resilience that nothing can easily break. You will carry a profound and authentic empathy for other deeply broken souls. Your painful failure is not the heavy and cold tombstone of your sacred destiny. It is merely the warm incubator for a much greater and significantly more resilient faith. Do not look at the shattered glass on the floor and weep endlessly for what is gone. Look at the beautiful and complex mosaic I am patiently assembling piece by piece. You thought you had the absolute final say in how your story inevitably ends. But I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am the ultimate author and the perfect finisher of your unfolding faith, and I declare right now with absolute authority that your beautiful story is far from over. There is a profound and highly specific reason you are hearing this right now. It is absolutely no accident that you are listening to my gentle voice today. You did not just stumble upon this message by some random cosmic chance. You did not just mindlessly scroll into this sacred and healing space by mistake. I personally and intentionally orchestrated this exact intersection of time and eternity. I perfectly aligned the intricate and complex details of your chaotic and heavy day, just so you could sit perfectly still and receive this necessary divine intervention. I waited until you reached the absolute bitter end of your own human strength. I waited until you dropped your heavy and deeply exhausting physical defenses. I waited until the loud and chaotic noise of the world faded into the distant background, and you were left with absolutely nothing but your raw and aching human heart. Because it is only in this quiet space of utter and complete surrender that you can truly and clearly hear the gentle whisper of my restoring grace. I stepped in exactly when the rising dark water was about to pull you completely under. I stepped in to firmly declare that it is finally time for me to take over the heavy wheel. You have carried this suffocating and massive burden for far too long entirely on your own. Your mind is completely exhausted from trying to calculate a logical way out of the mess. Your spirit is incredibly weary from running on an endless and brutal treadmill of toxic guilt. But this very second is the appointed and divinely designated time for your total rescue. The heavy clouds have opened wide above you right in this exact and precise moment. The divine shift you have been desperately praying for is beginning to visibly manifest right now. Your fragile heart is finally soft enough and broken enough to completely receive the absolute truth. Your stubborn pride has been completely stripped away by the severe pain of your consequence. And now, you are perfectly and beautifully positioned for a massive and unstoppable spiritual breakthrough. I am actively and aggressively moving in the unseen spiritual realms on your behalf today. I am turning the massive and heavy gears of heaven to align exactly with your total restoration. You are exactly where you need to be to witness my miraculous and overwhelming grace unfold. But I must give you a very serious and extremely urgent warning right now. Because the very moment I start rebuilding the devastated and smoking ruins of your life, the enemy will immediately launch a desperate and highly vicious counterattack against your mind. He is absolutely terrified of the glorious and radiant restoration I am orchestrating for you. He is completely paralyzed by the terrifying thought of what I will do next with your life, because he knows that a healed and completely restored version of you is incredibly dangerous to his kingdom. He knows that the brand new majestic castle I am building from your broken pieces will be a massive and impregnable fortress of solid faith that he cannot ever successfully penetrate. So he is whispering dark and highly toxic lies into your mind right at this very moment. He is desperately trying to distract you right before your massive and beautiful blessing finally arrives. He is loudly telling you that the terrible damage you caused is entirely and permanently irreversible. He is aggressively insisting that you are forever and completely disqualified from my abundant goodness. He wants to keep you firmly paralyzed by a thick and heavy suffocating blanket of toxic shame. He wants you to believe that you are forever defined and permanently labeled by your absolute worst mistake. He will try his absolute hardest to drag your mind back into the dark and lonely alleys of your past. He will constantly and relentlessly replay the old fuzzy tapes of your greatest failure on a never-ending loop. He will maliciously use the accusing and highly judgmental voices of other people to bring you entirely down. He will cruelly twist your own internal anxious thoughts into sharp and deadly weapons against your fragile soul. He wants you to feel so incredibly unworthy that you completely stop praying to me altogether. He wants you to feel so intensely condemned that you completely reject the free and beautiful gift of my grace. Because as long as you are trapped in that suffocating and dark prison of toxic and relentless guilt, you cannot possibly step into the bright and beautiful future I have carefully prepared for you. You cannot boldly and confidently walk through the brand new heavy doors I am opening for you right now. I am fully exposing his malicious and highly cruel tactics to you directly today. I am shining my blazing and holy light on the deceptive and frightening shadows deeply hidden in your mind. Because I do not want you to be ignorant or entirely unaware of his highly destructive spiritual schemes, I am warning you purely and entirely out of my deep and fierce protective love for your eternal soul. I am not telling you this to create any unnecessary or paralyzing fear in your heavy heart. I am telling you this so you can stand up tall and fiercely fight back with absolute spiritual authority. I want you to easily and quickly recognize the dark and sinister voice of the accuser when he speaks. His voice always brings heavy and overwhelming confusion and suffocating daily condemnation. His voice always focuses entirely and obsessively on your dark past and your deep personal human flaws. but my voice always brings profound and gentle peace and deeply loving correction. My voice always points you directly forward to a beautiful future filled with bright and radiant hope. Do not let the enemy steal the miraculous and deep spiritual healing I am actively delivering to you today. Do not let him ever successfully convince you that you are a discarded and permanently broken human vessel. When the old and familiar exhausting patterns of dark self-hatred try to slowly creep back into your mind, when the dark and heavy suffocating clouds of intense anxiety try to settle heavily over your tight chest, you must immediately remember the profound and solid truth I am fiercely planting in your spirit right now. You must fiercely and aggressively reject the toxic lies that try to hold you aggressively down in the dirt. The intense and uncomfortable spiritual tension you actively feel right now is simply the painful stretching of necessary growth. It is the fierce and highly violent spiritual clash between your painful past and your glorious upcoming future. The enemy is pulling incredibly hard because he knows he is about to lose his tight grip on you forever. He knows you are standing right on the very edge of a massive and beautiful historical breakthrough. So you must stay incredibly vigilant and highly spiritually awake in this specific and critical season. You must guard your precious and fragile mind with the absolute and unchanging truth of my spoken word. Listen closely to my next words, for they are your ultimate and entirely impenetrable shield. Listen carefully, because I am about to wrap you securely in something entirely and absolutely unbreakable. I am about to give you the ultimate and most powerful weapon against his dark and relentless deception. I am standing firmly between you and the harsh condemnation of the entire world. I am stepping directly in front of you to absorb every single fiery dart of the enemy. You do not have to fight this exhausting and terrifying battle on your own anymore. I am your ultimate shield and your absolute fortress in this dark and lonely valley. I am wrapping you so tightly in the warm embrace of my divine and perfect protection that the malicious voices of the accuser will soon sound like a distant and fading whisper. I am actively and aggressively silencing the loud voices of guilt that plague your tired mind. I am commanding the violent storms inside your heavy head to immediately cease their raging. You are completely covered by the massive shadow of my protective and healing wings. No weapon formed against your fragile mind will ever be able to prosper, because I have personally stationed my heavenly warriors around your very home today. I am actively sweeping away the toxic debris and the dangerous rubble from your path. I am shielding your deeply wounded soul from the crushing weight of total emotional collapse. You thought you were standing completely exposed in an open and dangerous battlefield, but you are safely hidden inside the impenetrable and solid fortress of my holy presence. The enemy wants to drag you out into the open to publicly humiliate you. He wants to parade your mistakes and your deep flaws in front of watching and judging eyes. But I have placed a thick and blinding veil of grace entirely around you. I am protecting your fragile reputation from the malicious gossip of unforgiving people. I am protecting your sensitive heart from the sharp and judgmental arrows of this broken world. But most importantly, I am protecting you from your very own highly destructive thoughts. I am placing a firm and holy guard over your mind to stop the endless cycle of self-hatred. I am commanding the heavy and rusty chains of past regrets to completely snap and break. You are entirely safe with me right here in this exact and quiet holy moment. You are fully shielded by the immense and overwhelming power of my boundless mercy. I am the fierce and deeply protective shepherd guarding the fragile door of your life. When the ferocious wolves of anxiety and severe depression try to enter your quiet mind at night, I am the one standing tall with a heavy staff to drive them completely away from you. You have spent so many terrifying nights fighting these invisible monsters entirely alone, but those exhausting and deeply lonely days of fighting in the dark are finally over. I am flooding your dark and heavy mind with a brilliant and warm celestial light. I am building a high and completely solid wall of fire around your emotional boundaries. The people who hurt you deeply and the situations that broke you entirely apart, they no longer have any spiritual authority over your bright and beautiful future. I want you to take a bold and physical step of faith right now. I want you to publicly declare your absolute freedom and break the suffocating hold of the enemy. Declare this powerful statement in the comments below to shift the heavy spiritual atmosphere. Type these exact words to seal your deliverance. I trade my guilt for the grace of God. Let that bold declaration echo loudly through the dark and dusty halls of your tired mind. Let it be the definitive turning point in your long and painful journey of true healing, because once you finally trade your heavy guilt for my light and perfect grace, I can begin the miraculous and beautiful work of your complete and total restoration. I am actively working a supernatural and massive redirection in your life right now. I know you cannot see the bright light at the end of the dark tunnel just yet. I know your natural eyes only see the smoking ruins of your original grand plan, but I am operating completely outside the limited and narrow boundaries of your human vision. I am taking the very mistake that brought you down to your weeping and trembling knees, and I am slowly turning it into the solid foundation of your greatest and most powerful testimony. The enemy thought your devastating failure would completely and permanently destroy your purpose. But I am using your devastating failure to entirely reconstruct your divine and sacred destiny. I am the ultimate master architect, and I am holding the brand new blueprint of your life. I am not merely restoring you back to the exact same fragile place you were before the fall. I am not just patching up the broken holes and painting over the ugly and deep cracks. I am upgrading your entire spiritual structure to easily withstand the heavy storms of the future. The brand new castle I am building from the scattered ashes of your shattered dreams will be far more glorious and breathtaking than anything you could have ever imagined. It will have deeper and significantly stronger roots planted firmly in my unending absolute truth. It will have higher and incredibly thicker walls built entirely out of my divine and ancient wisdom. The doors that are about to open for you will not be the doors you originally wanted. They will be significantly better doors leading to profoundly richer and much deeper blessings. I am turning your bitter and humiliating defeat into a brilliant and undeniable absolute victory. I am taking the severe shame that made you want to hide your tired face in the dirt, and I am transforming it into a radiant crown of breathtaking grace upon your heavy head. Your deep and painful wounds will eventually become the very source of your greatest healing power. You will absolutely use the dark and painful lessons you learned in this isolated valley of tears to gently and safely guide other broken and lost souls out of their own terrifying darkness. Your story is not a tragic and heavy cautionary tale of profound human failure. Your story is a beautiful and inspiring living testament to my unstoppable and fierce redemptive power. You will look back at this exact season of intense pain and profound, deep confusion, and you will clearly see the undeniable fingerprints of my protective love all over the shattered pieces. You will finally realize that the painful detour was actually the highly necessary main road. You will completely understand that the heavy door slammed in your face was a massive blessing in disguise, because it forced you to quickly turn around and walk directly into my waiting and open arms. I am breathing fresh and vibrant life into the dead and dry bones of your deeply buried hopes. I am sending a gentle and refreshing rain to wash away the thick dust of your severe disappointment. A beautiful and miraculous massive breakthrough is actively marching towards your front door right now. You do not need to figure out the complicated logistics or the heavy math of this divine rescue. You do not need to know the exact step-by-step details of how I will miraculously pull this off. You only need to completely and totally trust the loving and faithful heart of the one holding the pen. I am rewriting the final and beautiful chapters of your earthly journey right in this exact moment. And I promise you with absolute and unwavering certainty that the beautiful ending is incredibly good. But in order to fully and properly receive this glorious and completely brand new destiny, you must first allow me to completely restore the shattered and broken foundation of your true identity. You have allowed the loud and critical voices of the world to falsely define your personal worth. You have allowed your absolute worst and darkest mistakes to become your permanent and heavy name tag. You look in the mirror and you call yourself a failure and a massive disappointment to everyone. You label yourself as damaged goods that nobody could ever possibly want or deeply love. But I am here today to completely shatter those toxic and highly distorted earthly mirrors. I am here to firmly and gently nail your true and holy identity back into its rightful place. I am the great and almighty God of second and third and infinite amazing chances. And I declare over you today that you are absolutely not defined by your dark and painful past. You are not the foolish decision you made in a moment of extreme weakness and blind panic. You are not the failed and completely bankrupt investment that kept you awake for countless lonely nights. You are not the broken and heavily compromised vow that fills your aching chest with agonizing regret. You are not the heavy and suffocating sum of all your earthly failures and human missteps. You are my beautiful and precious and highly favored and incredibly beloved child. You were intentionally and carefully chosen before the very foundation of the chaotic and noisy world. You were deeply and unconditionally loved before you ever took your very first physical breath. You are completely and entirely marked by my radical and overwhelming and fierce divine redemption. You have been bought and entirely paid for with a sacred price that the human mind cannot comprehend. I am washing away the heavy and toxic labels that the cruel world violently slapped on your back. The label of being entirely inadequate and constantly falling completely short of the mark. The label of being a constant burden and a severe, heavy disappointment to those around you. I am peeling those ugly and painful stickers off your deeply bruised and incredibly tired soul. And I am replacing them with the solid and beautiful absolute truth of my holy and perfect word. I call you entirely justified, and I call you completely sanctified and forever completely redeemed. You are a vital and highly necessary part of my beautiful and grand cosmic master design. If you were entirely missing from this world, the entire beautiful tapestry would be tragically incomplete. Your existence is not a random and meaningless accident of blind and highly chaotic biology. Your life carries a heavy and profound spiritual weight that deeply and permanently impacts all of eternity. When I look directly at you, I do not see the dirty and messy stains of your past mistakes. I see the radiant and beautiful reflection of my own perfect and glorious and matchless grace. I see a fierce and highly resilient warrior who is slowly learning how to properly wield their heavy sword. I see a beautiful and highly valuable masterpiece that is still undergoing the necessary refining fire. I have permanently engraved your unique and precious name on the very palms of my holy hands. No demon in hell and no human on earth can ever erase your beautiful name from my sacred book. You are entirely worthy of the massive and beautiful blessings I have carefully prepared for you. Not because of your own fragile and deeply flawed human perfection or rigid daily religious discipline, but entirely because of my perfect and absolute and unconditional infinite love for your weary soul. Stand up tall today and gently brush the heavy and dark ashes off your tired and slumped shoulders. Lift up your heavy and tear-stained head and look directly into the loving eyes of your Creator. You are exactly who I say you are in this moment and forevermore. You are completely forgiven and you are completely cleansed and you are deeply and fiercely loved. Now that you know the absolute truth about your secure identity and your beautiful, radiant future, there is only one final and incredibly important sacred step left for you to take today. You are standing right on the very edge of the promised land, but you are still holding heavy baggage. You cannot possibly carry the toxic weight of your dark past into the beautiful freedom of your tomorrow. I need you to listen very closely to the final and gentle instruction I am about to give you, because this next gentle step will completely determine your ultimate and absolute spiritual liberation. It is time to gently forgive the version of you that did not know any better. You have been punishing that past version of yourself for far too long. You have acted as a harsh and merciless warden in your own mind, locking yourself away in a cold and dark cell of intense self-hatred. But I am stepping into that dark prison cell today to declare your absolute release. I am taking the heavy and rusty keys away from your trembling hands, because you were never meant to carry the crushing weight of your own salvation. You were never designed to pay the impossible debt of your human mistakes. Release your tight and painful grip on the heavy pen of your life. Stop trying to frantically rewrite the past chapters that are already permanently sealed. Stop trying to fix the unfixable and deeply broken situations entirely on your own. You are holding on to those sharp and shattered pieces so incredibly tightly. You are holding them so tightly that they are making your own hands bleed. You think that if you let them go, you will lose the only proof of your existence. But holding on to the sharp edges of your past is only destroying your beautiful future. I am gently inviting you to open your weary and trembling hands right now. Let the broken pieces of glass fall completely to the dusty floor. Let the heavy and dark ashes slip entirely through your tired fingers. Hand me the dusty rubble of your completely shattered and broken plans. Hand me the cold and bitter remains of your burned-down earthly dreams. Hand me the deep and paralyzing fear that you will never truly recover from this massive blow. Hand me the toxic and overwhelming shame that makes you want to hide from the world. I am asking you to completely surrender your desperate need for absolute control. You thought that if you just worried enough, you could somehow magically fix the damage. You thought that if you just carried enough heavy guilt, it would count as true repentance. But true repentance is simply turning away from the dark and running into my waiting arms. It is allowing yourself the beautiful and sacred privilege of being completely weak. It is finally admitting that you are utterly powerless to fix the massive mess you made, and leaning entirely on my infinite and miraculous power to do the heavy lifting for you. I want you to take a deep and physical breath of absolute surrender right now. I want you to completely release the bitter and highly toxic resentment you hold against yourself. Look at your broken past directly in the eye and finally say a permanent goodbye. You do not live in that dark and painful neighborhood of regret anymore. I have prepared a brand new and beautifully peaceful home for your weary soul. But you must willingly step out of the heavy darkness to enter the warm light. If you are truly ready to lay down your heavy and suffocating spiritual armor today, if you are completely tired of fighting this exhausting and lonely invisible war, if you are finally ready to let me take the heavy steering wheel of your life, I want you to make a bold and final declaration of your total surrender right now. Type these exact words in the comments below to seal this sacred covenant today. I surrender my past to you, Lord. Let that simple and powerful sentence be the definitive end of your long and painful, exhausting war. Let it be the beautiful beginning of your miraculous and completely unstoppable divine healing. I want to reassure your fragile heart one more time before we part ways today. I will never leave you alone in the dark and terrifying valleys of this world. I will never forsake you when you stumble and fall face down in the muddy dirt. My infinite and flawless grace has already covered every single one of your mistakes. The heavy spiritual debt has been entirely canceled and completely wiped away forever. You are completely clean and you are entirely free to start living abundantly again. But as you sit in the warm and beautiful glow of this massive spiritual breakthrough, I want you to deeply consider the other broken and heavily wounded souls out there. There is someone else in this chaotic world crying the exact same bitter tears as you. There is someone else staring at a torn blueprint and believing their life is completely over. Someone who feels entirely suffocated by the intense and toxic weight of their own massive guilt. They are currently trapped in the exact same dark prison you just walked out of. They are desperately searching the silent sky for a tiny glimmer of divine hope. If a specific name or a specific face comes to your heavy mind right in this moment, do not ignore that gentle and quiet divine nudge in your deeply restored spirit. I am calling you to step up and be my faithful and highly compassionate messenger today. Share this exact message with them right now so they know I have not forgotten them either. Send this directly to them so they can finally break out of their own terrifying prison of regret. Let them hear my gentle voice telling them that their devastating mistakes are not the absolute end. Be the beautiful and timely miracle they have been desperately praying for in their darkest midnight hour. And now, my beautiful and deeply beloved child, it is time for you to finally and truly rest your weary bones. Breathe in the deep and overwhelming peace of my holy presence right now. Release the tight and painful tension you have been holding in your heavy and tired shoulders. Unclench your tight jaw and let the heavy anxiety slowly drain from your physical body. Let the frantic and chaotic racing of your tired mind finally slow down to a gentle stop. The old and highly painful things have completely and entirely passed away. The brand new and incredibly glorious things have finally come to your front door. You do not have to carry the massive weight of the entire world on your back anymore. You do not have to stay awake all night trying to figure out the complicated details of tomorrow. Because I am already standing powerfully and majestically in your beautiful tomorrow. I have already paved the brand new and golden road for your upcoming glorious journey. I am actively making all things completely new and breathtakingly beautiful just for you. Close your weary eyes and let my perfect love wash completely over your tired mind. Sleep peacefully tonight knowing that you are held safely and securely in the palms of my hands. The heavy storm is finally over and the morning light is gently breaking through the clouds. Rest now, my precious and chosen child. Peace be with you today and for all of eternity.